All praise and thanks belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may the peace and blessing of Allah be upon His servant and final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, firstly, may Allah Azza wa Jal reward our dear Shaykha Jamal al-Din for her inspiring words. A very important reminder. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward my dear father as well for his advice, for his words. My mother is also with us here in the crowd. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant her reward and to grant both my parents a long life upon goodness and piety bi'idhnihi ta'ala. May Allah Azza wa Jal reward you all for your attendance and accept all your righteous deeds and your actions. What I wanted to share with you, or what I wanted to address, is a matter that continues to be raised by the Hujjaj, both the brothers and the sisters, every single time we arrive to Mecca. So from the frequently asked questions that, at least for what I hear, is something related to the parents. Many, as soon as they get there, they see Al-Kaaba, they remember their parents. Those that are alive and those that have passed away. And they begin to ask, am I allowed to perform a Umrah on behalf of my deceased parents? Is it permissible for me to perform a Hajj on behalf of my parents? Can I do Tawaf on behalf of my parents? And these questions are frequent and they're always asked. And I find that there is some ignorance concerning this matter, and this is what I want to address. I want to address something that is personal to each and every single one of us, very relevant to each and every single one of us. And that is that the vast majority of people they believe that goodness to the parents, or righteousness and piety, or dutifulness towards the parents is limited to when they're alive. So as they're alive, I serve them, I look after them, I take them around, and then once they die, many believe that the door of goodness to parents has closed. It comes to an end the day they die. And this is completely incorrect. In fact, and in all reality, goodness and dutifulness to parents actually begins a new chapter after their death. This is a completely different and new type of righteousness and goodness towards them. And that is for two reasons. Number one, because it is the most sincere form of dutifulness towards them. In that moment when you remember them after their death, no one hears your words except Allah Azza wa Jal. And no one knows of the good that you do for them except Allah Azza wa Jal. See, during their life, your goodness towards your parents could be tainted by showing off ostentation. You might be doing the good towards your parents in this life, maybe so that you can hear a good word from them or to please them, and you forgot about Allah Azza wa Jal. But after their death, the goodness and the dutifulness towards them is the most sincere goodness you will ever offer. Because they don't hear you and they don't see what you're doing. Only Allah hears your words, and only Allah sees what you're doing. And the second reason for why this is a new chapter of dutifulness and goodness towards them is because after their death, this is the moment in which they are in desperate need of your goodness. Way more than when they were alive. When the parents were alive, your goodness towards them is to fulfill worldly matters. But after they pass away, your goodness towards them, they are in such desperate need of it. The mother that is in the grave, in the tightness, in the gloominess, in the darkness of the grave. No one knows her situation except Allah Azza wa Jal. And the father that is in the grave, in its tightness, in its gloominess, no one knows what he is going through except Allah Azza wa Jal. And the dua that a child makes for his parents goes a long way, granting them relief and mercy while in their grave. How many mothers in their grave, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed His mercy upon her, widened her grave, illuminated her grave because of her righteous son that remembered her in a dua of His. And how many graves there are fathers inside that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would grant him immense relief, widen his grave, illuminate his grave, get rid of that loneliness he's feeling because of the dua and the goodness of his children as they remember him while he is in his grave. And so, my brothers and sisters in Islam, for those that had parents that were alive and now have passed to the afterlife, when you sit on the table and you eat, you remember your mother. You remember your mother that used to prepare the food, used to feed you, used to look after you. You remember that mother that used to sit by the side of your bed for hours and hours of the night as she treated you for a fever and for a cold that you experienced that night. So when you eat this food and you remember her goodness towards you, that should inspire you and motivate you to go and look for an orphan, look for a poor person, look for someone that is in need, and feed them on her behalf, so that Allah Azza wa Jal may reward you for your goodness, and He also may reward her for that sadaqah you give on her behalf. Never forget the goodness of a mother. Never forget the sacrifice of a mother. And the father as well, after he passes away, you take moments out of the day and the night to remember his goodness towards you. The father that spent long hours of the day working, perhaps also long hours of the night working to earn some money at the end of that day so that he can purchase your food with it, so he can keep you sheltered in a house, so that he purchased for you clothes that you can wear, you tear, you don't care about. And there was great and immense sacrifice behind this. You remember your father, and you remember how people observe you in the community. That's because your father left you a good reputation. He left you a good reputation after his death. Wallahi, for the majority of us, we respect one another because of what our parents left of good reputation for us in this worldly life. So when you remember him in goodness, that is supposed to inspire you, motivate you to give a sadaqah on his behalf, to remember him in your dua. And I finally conclude with a matter that our scholars taught us and brought to our attention. And that is that in Surah Luqman, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, Anishkur li wali walidayk. Show gratitude to me and show gratitude to your parents. See how important this is? Allah tied them both together. Show me gratitude and show your parents gratitude. The scholars, rahimahumullah, they taught us of a way of how to achieve this. They said if a person was to pray his 5 daily prayers, and then he followed up his salat, perhaps at the end of the salat in his sujood, and made a dua to his parents, said, Rabbi ghfir li wa li waliday, رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا, then indeed such a person has shown gratitude to Allah and has also shown gratitude to his parents. He showed gratitude to Allah by praying, and he showed gratitude to his parents by remembering them in his dua. And of course, the very best thing you can ever do for your parents after their death is no doubt better. I tell you something better than Umrah on their behalf, something better than Al-Hajj, something better than $1 million sadaqah on their behalf, something better than feeding the entire world's population. The better is a dua for them. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, if the son of Adam dies, there are only 3 ways in how he continues to be rewarded. And he mentioned the last one, saying, a righteous child that makes dua for them. He did not say a righteous child that gives a sadaqah on their behalf, or a righteous child that performs hajj on their behalf, even though that is great and that is good, and continue to do that. But nothing would be better than one dua you make for them after their death. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bestow His mercy upon the parents of ours that have moved along to the afterlife. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us goodness and to preserve our parents that are still alive, and to grant them a long life upon piety and goodness and obedience. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to gather us all in a better gathering than this, and that is the paradise. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for that very heartfelt reminder, and to all of our speakers so far, mashallah, they've